dear Bruce Neuburger and the whole Neuburger family. So good to have you here in Munich. Professor Dr. Juliane Sagebiel and Cantor Nicola David from the Liberal Jewish Community of Munich, Beth Shalom. Professor Dr. Bernward Dörner speaking about the lives of Anna and Benno Neuburger. All my colleagues from the Cultural Department of the City of Munich. Jörg Spengler, the head of the council here in Auheidhausen. Welcome to all of you. And thank you, Eva Tyrell and Johannes Trägner-Born, for the music. It is a great honor for me to welcome you, the family and relatives of Anna and Benno Neuburger, today in Munich. What the Nazi regime did to them moves me greatly. From 1936 on, they lived not far from here at Trogerstraße 44, where in a few minutes we will be presenting to the public the two memorial signs for them. This liberal-minded couple could never have dreamed that they would one day be cast out and ostracized and deprived of their rights, driven from their home and cruelly murdered. None of us can truly understand how deeply it must have shaken to the core those citizens who became victims of such a treatment. To be suddenly cast out of Munich society, out of German society. Benno Neuburger resisted the deportations of Jewish people. He wrote and sent anonymous postcards to try and shake up the indifferent populace and confront them with the truth about what was happening to the Jews, and wrote insulting things about Adolf Hitler. What courage this elderly, persecuted gentleman had, and he was sentenced to death for it. Very few of the people present here know what it means to be persecuted and deported because followers of an inhuman ideology define you as so-called different. We have all grown up in freedom, peace, democracy, and are among the few people in the world who are so comparatively privileged. The certainty we have of peace has become fragile. Since February 24 this year, we have been hearing terrible news day by day from Ukraine, seeing pictures of destroyed towns and cities, and people, women, men, and even children in fear of their lives. But even very old Holocaust survivors have been killed by Russian bombs or are having to flee abroad, including to Germany. I am grateful that Germany has taken the side of the Ukrainian people who are under attack and whose very existence is threatened, who became refugees overnight and is helping them to find a life safely and dignity here in our country and especially here in Munich. It is especially at this time, with a cruel war raging in Europe, that it is essential to remember the horror once visited on the world by Germans and not to suppress it. This is why it fills me with confidence and with joy to see the large number of citizens, schools, institutions in Munich, as well as those like you, the Neuburger family, who are related to those being remembered, who are getting involved in placing the memorial signs at eye level. This civic commitment by all sorts of people who are volunteers or just interested is for me a sign of democratic awareness and sends a message against anti-Semitism and racism. Almost exactly 4 years ago, Mayor Dieter Reiter presented the first of the memorial signs to the public. Today, they can be seen in many places in Munich, honoring 124 people so far, and more applications for them are being received all the time. We cannot undo what was done to the Jewish citizens of our city, but it is our duty to face our responsibility for the crimes committed in the name of Germany. The memorial signs for Anna and for Benno Neuburger embody a small part of that responsibility and symbolically return to them their place in our city's society. We shall not forget Anna, and we shall never and not forget Benno Neuburger. Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear family, I didn't know that you're here. So thank you very much for remembering me. So let me say thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much that you're all here. On behalf of Beit Shalom, this is the liberal Jewish community in Munich City. I would like to welcome all guests here and thank you, the Cultural Department of the City of Munich, setting this memorial sign for the couple of Anna and Benno Neuburger. And I'd like to thank all those people who are in the back, not seen, who are in the process of, who are involved in the process of placing this memorial sign. And I'm very happy that this city, Munich, is now able for remembering. It took a long time. So, Erinnerungszeichen in München, memorial signs in Munich for victims of the Nazi regime are set in Munich since, the mayor said it, 2017. These memorial signs are important to enable individual memory at eye level of women, men, children, and handicapped people, Sinti, Roma, homosexual people, people who are not in the conform with the Nazi race ideology. Culture, remembrance are the historical and cultural form of collective and individual memory. So as we do later on when we go to Trogerstraße. To remember what has happened in the past is important for the present and for the future. We shouldn't forget. As you can see, in the moment, we have a big discussion about Documenta 15. There is anti-Semitism, well, they discuss about it, and so we can say it is still very important to discuss our relationship to the Jewish in the present and in the past. What must we not forget? And how do we answer? In this respect, culture of remembrance is a community, has a community building effect in schools, in universities, and in private neighborhoods. So, Munich is the first city in Germany with an Aktionsplan gegen Antisemitismus. Well, it's an action plan against anti-Semitism. It was set up 19th of January 2022 from the Munich City Council, action plan against anti-Semitism, and thus sent a clear signal in the fight against anti-Semitism. And the city of Munich is the first in the Federal Republic of Germany to have drawn up an action plan against anti-Semitism in this form and in close cooperation with all Jewish communities. And this is quite important. There is not only one community, there are several communities. Like the Christians have several forms, yeah? Or the Muslims, they have several forms, so the Jewish also. So I will come to the end and say thank you very much for remembering us. Thank you.
Dear Major Katrin Habenschaden, dear Professor Dr. Juliane Sagebiel, dear Bruce Neuburger, dear relatives of Anna and Benno Neuburger, and dear Dr. Maximilian Sternat. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to remember Anna and Benno Neuburger today. The eternal mass murderer Hitler, in the early 1940s, postcards with such accusations against the dictator Adolf Hitler circulated in Munich. The sender was Benno Neuburger, a former real estate agent who, himself Jewish, was doing what he could to protest against the impending annihilation of the European Jews, and for which he was sentenced to death. Benno Neuburger was born in March 4th, 1871, the fourth and youngest son of the Munich textile retailer Max Neuburger and his wife Judith Jette née Livinger. Leaving junior high school at the age of 14, he commenced a commercial apprenticeship at the cloth and drapery business of Elias Kohn Königsberger, where he continued to work as an assistant after completing his apprenticeship. In 1902, he joined his father's real estate agency, which he then took over after the latter's death. He married Anna Einstein in October 1907. She was born on April 15, 1877, in Laubheim, a town in Württemberg district of Biberach, the daughter of a livestock trader. Their first child, Fritz, was born in October 1908. Daughter Johanna, Hanni, followed in October 1909. Their third child, Ernst, died 6 days after birth. Benno Neuburger was successful in his real estate business. He dealt mostly in properties on the outskirts of Munich, which were interesting for the upwardly mobile and rapidly increased in value. The hyperinflation of 1923 wiped out most of his wealth, however, a large part of which he had invested in German government bonds. The living condition of the Neuburger family deteriorated significantly under Nazi rule. Their daughter, Johanna, suffered enormously under the anti-Semitic animosity. In April 1936, the Neuburger family moved from Trogerstraße 19 into a flat on the second floor of Trogerstraße 44. In September 1937, Johanna Neuburger was able to immigrate in the United States. Her brother Fritz followed in July 1938. Both started and raised families there. Benno Neuburger was arrested during the Kristallnacht pogroms and sent to the Dachau concentration camp in November the 10th, 1938. After release, he and his wife were forced to live in poverty, depend in part on support from their children abroad. Their efforts to immigrate in the United States via Cuba failed. In mid-March 1942, they were forced to leave their flat in Trogerstraße 44 and move to the Judensiedlung Milbertshofen, Jewish settlement in the Munich suburb of Milbertshofen. Benno Neuburger observed the radicalization of the persecution of Jews with an increasing sense of alarm and decided to act. Before Munich Jews were deported, before the Munich Jews were deported, he began to send anonymous postcards with anti-Hitler comments. For example, the eternal masked murderer Hitler, September 20th, 1941. Tyrant, January 7th, 1942. And murderer of 5 million, January 23, 1942. And criminal, February 21, 1942. He failed to notice his company stamp on one of the postcards, however, inadvertently offering a clue for the Gestapo, to the Gestapo. During questioning, Benno Neuburger courageously admitted to his acts of resistance. On April the 4th, 1942, before the district court judge, he stated, "I wanted to show my outrage of the extermination of the Jews." The indictment submitted to the Volksgerichtshof, People's Court, on May the 6th, 1942, read, "To justify his actions to defend, stated that through the measures taken by the state against the Jews since 1933, in particular the speeches given by the Führer, in which the extermination of the Jews were allegedly announced, he became filled with an intense hatred of the Führer. Only on July 20th, 1942, the Volksgerichtshof sentenced Benno Neuburger to death for planning high treason, Hochverrat. The court noted, with respect to postcard number 9, the defendant stated that 10 million Jews live in Europe, half of whom were apparently in danger of being exterminated. Benno Neuburger was under no illusion as to the Nazi regime's intention to annihilate European Jews. With extraordinary clarity, he named the genocidal dimension of the plans, thus debunking two myths still propagated today, that Germans knew nothing about the genocide against the Jews, and that Jews have no resisted. Benno Neuburger was murdered by guillotine on September 18, 1942, in Berlin Plötzensee prison, age 71. Anna Neuburger was deported to Theresienstadt on July 23, 1942. From there, she was sent to the Treblinka concentration camp on 19 September 1942, where she was murdered probably shortly after her arrival on September 21st, 22, at the age of 65.
Thank you, Bernward. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Neuburger. I'm the grandson of Anna and Benno, who today we take time to recognize and pay respects by acknowledging their former lives here in this beautiful city of Munich in uglier times. This event is like one of those old epic films, 3 years in the making. We can be grateful to medical science and the vaccine that has put the pandemic at bay and made it possible for this gathering. I'd like to introduce my family here today. My wife of 40 years, Sharon Yuki. My daughter, Anna Moeller. My son-in-law, her husband, Mark. My granddaughters, Madeline and Eleanor. My great nieces and nephew, Batsheva, Katya, and Jaden Lebostol. Madeline, Eleanor, Batsheva, Katya, and Jaden are great-great-grandchildren of Benno and Anna. And I am extremely grateful for their presence here today. I want to thank the city of Munich and its representative, Vice Mayor Catherine Habenschaben, for taking the time to be here. I want to thank the director of this beautiful museum, Michael Burrs, for making available this amazing space. I want to thank Professor Julian Sagabiel, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, from the Munich Liberal Jewish community for her presence today and her words as well. And to the musicians performing today, Eva Tyrell and Johannes Tragner-Born. Thank you. Also want to acknowledge Jorg Spengler. Okay. Okay. And if he's here, Cantor Nicolo David, also of the Beth Shalom. I don't know if he's here today. I want to especially acknowledge and express my deep thanks to Dr. Maximilian Strenad for the tremendous work he's done, along with Barbara, his associate, to make this event possible, and for all of his significant contributions to keeping lit the vital light of memory for a history that must not be forgotten. I greatly appreciate his generous help, beginning with our first meeting 5 years ago at the archive, when I came to do research on my family's history, and for his writings that have brought to light very important details about Nazi persecution of Munich Jews. I also greatly value Max's friendship. Thanks also go to the Munich City Archive and the other Munich committees for making this event possible and for all the work they do to preserve the vital historical records and for helping make that history visible to the public and therefore raising the popular consciousness of what could very well otherwise be interred in the forgotten past. Several years ago, my sister Linda and I decided that it is here in Munich, in the Munich archive, that Anna and Benno's and other family letters written in the years 1938 to 1941 be kept. It is a trust that has been well proven to be a wise decision. Further, I want to acknowledge and thank historian Professor Bernhard Dorner and his wife Sabine Schneller, who came all the way from Berlin to be here today, and for his interest in this history and the work he has done related to uncovering Jewish acts of resistance, including that of my grandfather, and for his writing on this and other aspects of the Nazi era, including its perverse legal system. We are honored and moved to have them here. And we are honored by also, I don't know if Friedbert Muldorfer is here, but I just want to mention him, our deep respect and appreciation for his historical research and writing and his activism, whose results we saw in Traunstein a few days ago. So important in giving the public a visual expression to the determination not to forget or to bury the crimes in the past. I want to recognize others not here, but whose work is also worthy of recognition. Among them, Wolf Gruner, writer and head of the Holocaust Department at the University of Southern California, Christian Stieb, who has researched and written about the Holzer-Spatz family of Wolfratshausen, and Otto Bayer, who has done work to preserve the memory of the Jewish community of Laupheim. These are among the many archivists and historians who have dedicated themselves to the work of uncovering, recording, guarding, and publishing the truth of what happened in the 1930s and 40s in Bavaria and Germany, including cases directly involved in my family. And there are three families that I want to mention here. There's the Neuburger family, has already been mentioned, or Neuburger. My wife keeps telling me to pronounce it correctly, Neuburger. Holzer and the Spatz families. I feel we owe a debt of gratitude to such historians, and especially German historians, who have set an important example by uncovering the wrongdoings of their own country. This is an example that many people in the United States, among other places, need to learn from. Historians generally don't get the approbation they deserve. If it seems like we don't learn much from prior mistakes and atrocities, imagine a world, what the world would be like, without that historical memory being preserved, and without the determination of historians and scholars to pursue the truth. Lest we take this for granted, let me say that even the idea of presenting or uncovering or popularizing a truthful history of the United States is coming under fierce opposition by an ever more militant defenders of white supremacy and patriarchy. And I'm referring in particular to the controversy around teaching critical race theory and the 1619 Project. My grandfather, Benno, carried out acts of resistance in the fall and winter of 1941-1942, acts that were small ones in a desperate time. But they were not without their significance. Resistance to injustice and oppression, and yes, fascism, is still an important matter and an even urgent matter, as so many of us in the United States now recognize. When all is said and done, the crime for which he was arrested, incarcerated, tried, and murdered was to bring to light, in a limited way, the limited way he was available to him, the true nature of the Hitler regime. When we see the truth being suppressed, and those seeking to find and reveal it being suppressed, and their work being censored, it's time to hit the streets. And whatever the risk, speak out and act out in opposition. This too is something history has taught us by positive and negative example. And while it is easy to feel dismayed looking at the world and the odds we're up against, the fact that people are writing about and honoring actions such as those that Benno took up in the most trying of times, and organizing events like this that pay tribute to those who fell to injustice, reconfirms and reinvigorates an essential outlook and morality. We can and must continue to insist on a world where these terrible injustices are no longer part of our social experience, are no longer considered acceptable, and to work to remove the ground of social inequality on which they grow. So an event like this is a modest but real contribution to the much larger effort to bring human beings out of our state of primitive divisions into a more enlightened self-awareness and social reality. We have a long way to go, but it's a journey we have to take. So on behalf of the Neuburger, Moeller, Lebosto, and Yuki families represented here today, thank you very much. Now we are going to hear parts of the letters from Anna and Benno, and also Hetty Holzer, who's a niece of Anna, written between August 4, 1938, and November 20, 1941, while they were trapped here in Munich. And the readers will be Batsheva, Katya, Madeline, Jaden, and Eleanor. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today and for honoring my great-great-grandparents. On September 17, 1937, Hani Neuburger, daughter of Benno and Anna, emigrated to the United States. On July 28, 1938, their son Fritz also left for the United States. This left Benno and Anna Neuburger without their children. What we are about to read are short excerpts from a few of the many letters written by Benno and Anna Neuburger and Anna's nieces and nephews from the Holzer family between the summer of 1938 and the late fall of 1941 to Hani and Fritz in the United States. Included in these readings are descriptions of relevant events at the time these letters were written. In late July 1938, the German government passed a decree ordering Jews to turn in their identification papers and apply for new ones. The new documents came with a J stamped on the front. This was meant to make it harder for Jews to evade detection inside Germany. The J alerted authorities in countries bordering Germany that here was a person who would likely try and stay illegally or to apply for asylum if allowed to enter. It effectively closed the borders to Jews trying to leave Germany without a special visa. Jews were trapped in Germany as they became trapped within it. Letter of August 4th, 1938. Dear children, reading your letter, I'm very happy to hear that you, my daughter Hani, are so happy with your dear Ludwig, and he with you. I wish so much to be with you, and now that Fritz is with you, he'll tell you all the news. Dear Hani, you will let us know about everything, and especially about how Fritz manages with his new life. I dearly wish to be with you there. Your father. Dear Fritz, I'm wishing you the best in such a faraway country. Let us know how you are doing. We are very surprised about your being with Hani. Yesterday, Miss Krause and Julie stopped by to send you their greetings and congratulations from all your friends. Aunt Verona is having a hard time with you being in New York, but that's only because she would love to be with you there. I wish I could do something for you, my dear Hani, but I guess you'll stay with Fritz. I can't believe that I'm without children here, but I'm happy that it worked out for you and now for Fritz as well. Even though the farewell was really hard, I will rest and take care of myself so that I'll be able to join you someday. Hopefully, my dear children, you will write to me often so I can have some joy even though I can't be with you. Many greetings and kisses from your mom. On November 8th, 1938, the distraught son of a Polish-German family, suddenly and brutally deported to Poland in late October, shot and fatally wounded a German consulate official in Paris. Nazis across Germany were ordered to attack Jewish homes, businesses, and synagogues. On November 9th and 10th, in the town of Laupheim, Anna's sister, Mina Einstein, was rousted from her home and forced, along with the rest of the Jewish community, to kneel before Laupheim synagogue. As it was burned, the Jews of Laupheim had to shout, "We are burning the synagogue." In Traunstein, 40 Nazis invaded the home of the Holzer family at 6 Kernstraße. Benno Holzer escaped and found refuge with a neighbor. Martha, wife of Alfred Holzer, had her leg broken, and Margaret, the 14-year-old daughter of Hansi Holzer, was held all night by Nazi thugs. The rest of the family members, Father Willie, son Alfred, and daughter Hedy, were taken to jail and then forced to leave Traunstein for good. They went to Munich, to the home of their sister-in-law and Aunt Anna Neuburger. In Munich, Benno was picked up by police from he and Anna's Trogerstraße apartment and taken to the Dachau concentration camp, where he spent the next several weeks. Letter of November 13th, 1938. My dear children, it's a pleasure writing you again today. I'm doing pretty well, so please don't worry about me. Dad should be here any moment. My biggest wish is to be with you, my dear children. It looks like we are the only ones who stayed behind. Clara is gone, and soon everyone will leave. I'm just happy that you, my dear children, got away in time. I got a letter from my Aunt Mina today. She's doing all right considering what she's gone through. Well, the main thing is that we all stay healthy. Greetings from your mom. Dear Hani and dear Fritz, thank you so much for your lovely words. You must have received our letter as well. It's a pleasure to know about your well-being. All we are wishing for is to be with you. We had to leave our home on Thursday. That's why we are staying with your mom now. She's taking it quite well. God willing, we will be able to bear all the hardships we are experiencing now. Who knows what the next days will bring. We'll remain here until we can return home. Of course, the best thing would be to go to America right away. Maybe you could help us with a sponsorship. That would be highly appreciated. Marta is in the hospital. We'll be visiting her soon. Clara called us from Vogel's home yesterday and wanted to know how we are doing. She won't come back. Take care of yourselves and please write to us soon. Loving greetings from your cousin, Hedy Holzer.
In an intra-department memo in 1940, the anti-immigrant and anti-Jewish United States Assistant Secretary of State, Breckinridge Long, spelled out how the U.S. State Department officials were to keep refugees, most of them Jewish, out of the United States. We can delay and effectively stop for a temporary period of indefinite length the number of immigrants into the United States. We could do this by simply advising our consulates to put every obstacle in the way and require additional evidence to resort to various administrative devices which would postpone and postpone and postpone the granting of visas. Letter of October 3rd, 1940, a week before Yom Kippur. Dear children, I'd like to get a letter to you before the holidays. We'll celebrate it as cheerfully as we can without you. Every day I wish to be with you. Dear Hani, it would be wonderful if you'd write us more often. I'd love pictures of you and Fred and Carolina. Please send some as soon as you can. It would mean a lot to me. Dear children, we haven't heard from you in a little while. Is everything okay? We sure hope so. I can happily report that we are just doing fine. Dear children, we would like to write to you once a week. It's been going well so far, and hoping that you're doing fine as well. Hopefully we'll be with you soon. We must keep our hope alive that it'll happen for us someday as well. Please find out about how much a passage would cost with the shipping company, United States Lines. And we are wondering if they take care of everything. As soon as we get your letter, we'll see. I'm very sorry that you are spending so much money on us without knowing if it really does any good. We are doing fine and hoping the same holds true for you. We are always happy to hear how Carolina is doing. I guess we'll hear soon from you in regards to Cuba. We are ready to make the journey there. Your last letter we received on October 9th. Loving greetings from your mom and dad.
In early September of 1941, a decree was issued from the Nazi Ministry of Interior. It stipulated that beginning on September 19, 1941, all Jews above the age of 6 were forbidden to be in public without the Jew's star, a black-edged, 6-pointed star of yellow cloth as large as the palm of the hand with the word Yud in black, clearly visible, firmly sewn to the left breast of the piece of clothing. On September 20th, Benno put the first of 14 unaddressed postcards in the mail. On it, he wrote, "The eternal mass murderer Hitler, I spit on you." Letter of September 30th, 1941. Dear children, even though we haven't heard from you this week, we'd like to write to you anyway. We are doing well, and we hope you are too. My thoughts are always with you, especially this week, since your brother, my dear Fritz. We wish we could be with you and celebrate his birthday together. It must be wonderful to celebrate your birthday for the first time with your beloved Kate. Wishing you lots of love and happiness. I'm just wondering what my lovely Carolyn has been up to. She must be speaking quite a bit now. My dear Hani is probably out with her a lot. Are you still seeing Ludwig that often? We are still very much hoping to see you someday. My biggest distraction is when I look at pictures from you. The last picture of Caroline, which I got from Hani, is so sweet. I would love to go for a walk with Caroline. Tell me, is Margaret still coming by a lot? I wonder what she's been up to. Heidi is probably living in New York by now. And how about Miss Benfinger? Have you heard anything from her? How's Clara doing? I'm sure you'll be getting together soon. Heidi, Benno, and Tilly are busy working. They all have lots to do. Heidi decided to stay for a while longer. She's not quite ready to leave yet, and Carl doesn't want to marry quite yet. Aunt Mina is sending lovely greetings. Please take care of yourself and stay healthy. Many greetings and kisses to all of you, and an extra kiss for Caroline, your mother.
Okay. Letter of November 18th, 1941. Dear children, we are a little worried. Your last letter we have received on October 9th. Hopefully you are all healthy. At least I can tell you that we are doing well. As you probably know, Tilly and her son, Wilhelm, as well as Willie, Benno, and Alfred, with Martha, succeeded in getting to Poland. I don't know how much more to report, but I'm sure we'll hear from them. Luckily, it is still possible to get away from certain countries. We received a telegram from Cuba, and we hope to get there from here. You probably know from other relatives that it's really hard to get away from here now. We just have to wait for a reply in regards of our departure, as bitter as that is. Love and greetings from your father. Unbeknownst to Benno and Anna, the train scheduled to leave Munich for resettlement in the east of November 17th actually left on November 20th. Among the 1,000 deportees on that train were Benno, Alfred, and his wife, Martha Holzer, their cousin, Tilly Spatz, and her 16-year-old son, Wilhelm. Also, 2 relatives of Tilly's, Flora Spatz, and her 19-year-old daughter, Hertha Spatz. All were told they were going to Riga, Latvia, but the train stopped in Kaunas, Lithuania, where they were taken to a fortress, kept in freezing cells for 3 days without food or water, and on November 25th, among 2,000 other Jews from Frankfurt and Berlin, were taken from their cells, marched into an open field, and murdered. Among those 3,000 were 175 young children. Letter of November 20th, 1941, the last letter from Benno and Anna to their children, Fritz and Hani. Dear children, we haven't heard from you in a while, but we are hoping that you're doing well. Same holds true for us. The telegram from Havana we received. Unfortunately, it's absolutely necessary to get a visa first from Berlin, as you probably know. Dear Fred, regarding our departure, there's nothing to do right now. We'll just have to wait. We just didn't get the right number, and so we missed it. How are Hansi, Paul, and Marga doing? Please give my regards to all of them. My dearest children, I miss you very much, and please take care of yourselves. Your mom. P.S. Loving greetings to Caroline.
I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has made the placement of the sign of remembrance possible, especially Bruce Neuburger. As a history teacher, I'm really looking forward to reading the book that you are writing at the moment. Some of the ugliest and most tragic episodes of the history of the Third Reich took place in Heidhausen, such as the Nazis' beer hall putsch in 1923. The putsch was foiled thanks to Munich police. It was this very same beer hall in which Georg Elser very nearly succeeded in killing Hitler in 1938. Elser, a carpenter, paid for his courage with his life. In the pre-Nazi period, this borough was a center of Jewish life in Munich and in Germany. Jewish families lived in more than 200 buildings. Many of these, in turn, were home to the offices of Jewish lawyers and doctors, and to cinemas, shops, and beer manufacturers owned by Jews. Of these, the most famous was Josef Schülein, his company Löwenbräu. Schülein and his family shared the fate of the other Jews living in our borough: forced emigration or deportation to the death camps in Eastern Europe. My responsibility, our responsibility, is to commemorate the victims of the Shoah, and by doing so, to ensure that they and their suffering is not forgotten, and that the lessons of their tragic fates are learned by and in every generation. What anti-Semitism, hatred, and racism can lead to. Today, I stand in front of you and stand for Anna and Benno Neuburger. Anna and Benno, you are one of us. You have not been forgotten. You will not be forgotten. Thank you. Yeah. No, this one's fine.